I think we're on, Hillary. The Board of Port Wardens will now come to order. I'm Gene Godley, the chair. I have with me fellow board members Willie Sampson, the vice chair, John Butler, and Scott Anderson. We also have Kevin Scott, Planning of Zoning, Carrie Berger, Assistant City Attorney, and Hillary Ratovich, who is with the boards and commissions coordinator, and as of tonight, a star producer of this film. So we have a quorum. We have the agenda before us. So I have a motion that we approve the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda, please.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, aye. Aye. The sound, since I dominate the sound doesn't always come through, so we can do some hand gestures. So the agenda is approved. We also have before us the minutes from the last meeting, February the 25th. I have no questions about them. Any comments? If not, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Been moved, seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We also have one findings of fact from 719 Chester Avenue. I have no comments or changes. Does anyone have any comments? If not, do I have a motion that they are approved? Got a motion? Got a second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous on all of those. So we're moving to the first non-hearing item, which is the Harbormaster's 2020 report to be presented by Kevin. Kevin, would you present that report? And it'll obviously be part of the record.
Sure. This is pursuant to Annapolis City Code Title 15 for the 2020 season, specifically section 15.20.110, paragraph A, states that the Harbormaster shall annually, on or before April 1st, of course we got delayed because of the COVID, notify the Board of Port Wardens of all mooring permits to be issued. And this list and this report is just that.
Kevin, I have two quick questions. Any changes that we ought to know about from the last report in terms of numbers or location? And then second, can you clarify for me, in some of these, they are marked as vacant, and then some are marked as available. What's the difference?
I don't know. I'm the messenger.
I would imagine if it's has a name in it, it's at least probably annual or seasonal.
Well, you're right. There's annual moorings and there's seasonal moorings here with this list. So I don't know how Beth keeps track of all this.
So basically the code says you have to present it, or someone has to present it to us, but we don't have to take any action.
Correct. I think last year when you received this, you simply accepted it and moved on.
I move we accept the report. And does anyone have, I'm sorry, does anyone, any other board member have any questions or comments? If not, I propose we accept it and move on to the agenda.
I'd like to make, go ahead.
No, go Scott.
No, I was going to say, make a motion to accept.
Motion's been made, seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it's accepted. Okay, we're now going to move to new business, which would be 7 applications. So I'd like to ask Hillary to bring forth all of the applicants so we can swear them in. And welcome, Carrie.
Dan, Larry, and I'm present. I just unmuted.
Rob Welsh is present.
Ed Hartman, present.
Brian Boyd, present.
Mike Marsh, present.
Trish Dunn, present.
Renee Norris, present.
Odin Osman Ismail, present.
Leo Dunn, present.
So you have members or representatives of all of your items except 93 Spa Drive.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank all the applicants for participating in what is a fairly unique procedure for us and a new one. And we owe a lot of thanks to all the city employees for trying to help us make this happen. And since it's our first time, we may make some mistakes, but we will get through it, and we appreciate everyone's help. We have received comments, 4 comments on 2 different applications, but all comments are open for, the public is welcome to make comments until June 23rd. So we will not review those particular comments. I might also say, since we're waiting for public comment, we will not vote tonight, but we will postpone all votes to our next meeting, and we may request other information. For the applicants, I'd like to say all your applications have been presented to us. We've read them all. We're familiar with them. So we would appreciate, since we have a long agenda, in order to expedite tonight's hearing, keeping your summaries as concise as possible. Having said that, I absolutely do not want to keep anyone from expressing their views or putting their best case forward. Next, and this is for Tammy, who is recording this, all applications and staff reports will be entered into the record as Exhibit A for each application. With that prelude, I would like to ask everyone that is going to speak tonight to the Port Wardens to please answer in the affirmative. Do you promise to tell the truth to the Port Wardens to the best of your ability upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
Affirmative.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do. I do.
Thank you very much. I could hear all of you. I'm sorry I couldn't see you. So we will start with the first application. Hillary, if you will bring the applicants forward for 198 Acton Road.
Hi, it's Ed Hartman. Can you all hear me? We're trying this for the first time as well.
Yes, Mr. Hartman, you can turn on your video at this point. You should have the ability. There you go.
Good, excellent, thank you. I have Bethany here pushing buttons and making things happen. I'm just a talking head.
We appreciate it, Ed. And would you please summarize your application and what the applicant is trying to do?
I sure will, and I'm putting up on the screen, or at least Bethany's putting up on the screen. Getting a lot of echo all of a sudden. Okay, I think we're good. So this is a very simple one, and I will be out of your way quickly. Heidi Rothenhouse and Ken Henry own the property at 198 Acton Road in Annapolis, and they are seeking to replace a small 10-foot by 14-foot floating dock with essentially a replica. If you look on your screen now, I have 2 photographs. The one on the left is an aerial, and if you look down towards the lower left-hand corner, you'll see what appears to be an inflatable and 2 orange kayaks that is sitting on the floating dock. And on the right side is a ground level photograph of that. That's the old one. Flip to the next page. And this is the new one, which is the exact same size, but has a little opening and is not falling apart. This is the entire application. It's in the exact same place. It is the exact same size. And lastly, just to sort of finish the presentation, this is the site plan for the property, and it shows the lateral lines associated with this particular property and the waterfront area, although my face is right in front of part of it. You'll see that, again, the entire structure is well within the parameters of the developable waterway area associated with this property and does not violate the riparian rights of any of the adjacent or contiguous properties. So my clients are listening. They have nothing to add at this point. We would ask approval of this in-kind replacement of the floating dock for Ms. Rothenhouse and Mr. Henry.
You're good to me.
Thank you for that concise summary. Do any of our board members have any questions about this application? Hearing no questions, and I assume we've read the staff report, so I assume that Kevin Scott has no comment. I appreciate the presentation. The board appreciates the presentation very much, and we will await public comments for our decision at the next meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your patience.
Thank you for participating in this unique thing.
Yes,
So-
sir. Have a good night, y'all.
You too. So next we have Harold, if you'll bring forth Brian Boy, 517 Horn Point Drive, and Rob Welch, who is representing you, I assume.
Mr.
Aye.
Welch and Mr. Boy, you can turn on your cameras if you would like.
Okay. You do that in the little settings box. Start video. There we go.
I believe I'm unmuted. I'm not seeing where I can.
Mr. Boy, if you're on a computer, at the bottom left, there should be a mute button and a start video button. If you click on the start video
Got it.
button.
I'm all set here.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Rob Welsh. I think I'll probably do most of the talking for Mr. Boy tonight. He has a Pier permit application for 517 Horn Point Road. And for the particulars, the signage was put out on May 14th, and pictures of that were sent to Kevin Scott. The remailing for the virtual meeting notices was done on May 1st, so I think we made both of the dates required, and Kevin has proof of that as well. MDE has already issued their permits, and Kevin Scott was given a copy back in February, actually. So the pier that we're proposing on the plans that hopefully everyone has in front of them is 127.5 feet by 6 foot wide. That's channelward of the mean high water line, has a 10 by 20 platform at the end and a 3 by 20 finger pier coming back to land. It has 2 lifts on the right-hand side when you're looking out at the water. One is a 4-pile lift. The other is a single-sided double jet ski lift. And there's also 1 freestanding mooring pile on that side. There is another single-sided lift in the U shape between the platform, the pier, and the finger pier. And that's for a light boat like a Boston whaler. On the landward side, there is a living shoreline on the property. So there's a 3-segmented walkway that turns 90-degree angles that measure 6 by 25 and 6 by 16 and 6 by 26, all providing access over sandy bottom. So it's not going over any marsh. And that's really it.
I noticed just a comment that the end of the platform on what to me is the left-hand side appears to be directly on the harbor line. And I want to be sure the applicant knows that, given that no boat can moor at the end of that pier so that it crosses over the harbor line.
Understood.
Okay. Any questions from or comments from my fellow board members?
Gene, can I ask if any of the public comments you received were about this application?
I don't think so.
We've
But,
not-
let me, in case you have any concern, all four that we've received so far, there were two for one application, two for another, and they were all supportive of the application. But I know one was for the first one, and I'm not, Scott, Kevin, you can,
The other two comments were support for a future application here at 18 Stodview. I've received no comments on this application.
okay. So we appreciate your presentation. Oh, John?
Gene, I just have a comment or an observation, looking at this. The boat shown in, going into the slip that's kind of wrapped by, I don't know, you call it a finger pier, I guess. And just an observation that if the neighboring property owner built what's within their rights and, the 5-foot setback, you're just going to have a small space. You're going to have to like back in to then move over to pull forward. Getting in and out of that slip could be more challenging if your neighbor developed something, using the 5-foot setback. I mean, you'd have more than 10 feet, so you have space, but I just want to point out that it's potentially a more challenging situation.
Yeah, we did actually think about that. And if that happens, we would simply move the center console boat to where the double jet ski lift is. They're the same lifts. So then we'd have more maneuvering space for the Boston Whaler on the right-hand side, and the jet skis would live in the U-shaped notch.
Yep. Obviously a congested area, or it could be worse. So. Any other comments? If not, we very much appreciate your presentation. We will wait for public comments and prior to our voting on the at our next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Hillary, if you will now bring forth the 93 Spa Drive.
And Mr. Biba needs to be sworn in as well.
Oh. I'm looking for him. Frank, can you hear me? You got to unmute. He has his on mute, but mine's not. Mr. Biba, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can now hear you.
Good.
Do you swear to tell the truth to the port wardens to the best of your ability upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
You are now sworn in. Would you briefly, I know this venue is a little different, than the one you were used to, but if you'll briefly summarize the application for us.
Okay, I'm representing Tom and Julia Peterson. They live at 93 Spa Drive. They're proposing to put in a 20,000-pound boat lift adjacent to an existing 5 by 10-foot pier and to add a 3-foot by 20-foot finger that would run parallel to the boat lift. And you'll note that this is at the very head of Spa Creek. It is so far up the creek that the harbor line doesn't even get there. I included on the aerial a lateral line, which is to the right of the proposed boat lift. The lateral line to the south exceeds 200 feet. At the 200-foot mark, it's actually a marsh, so the lateral line is meaningless at that point. If you were to put it in, it would be perpendicular to that line, the dotted line. The Petersons own a 31-foot Doral powerboat. It's currently there where the boat lift is proposed to go, and it's tied to the existing dock. And you'll also note that this was part of a very large dredging project last fall. This is one of 16 properties. This was actually the last property to be dredged.
Okay, Frank, I have no questions. I do have a comment, and that is on the application on the page after the picture with the ladder line, the pages aren't numbered, so I can't tell you what it is. But in the lower left-hand box, it is asking for a 20 by 5 foot pier extension as opposed to 3 feet.
Yeah,
So,
my error. That was an earlier version. It was originally proposed to me as 20 by 5. I ran it by MDE. They said that they couldn't approve it that way, so I changed it to 3 by 20, but obviously didn't change it there.
okay, well, just so it's clear, any action we take will be in regard to a 3 foot wide, not a 5 foot wide pier. I have no questions. Board members? John?
Yes, I have a question regarding the diagram where you did show, the 250 feet across to the adjacent property across Spot Creek, and then the arrow showing the site. And then when you turn the page, it sort of shows, something more of a picture. But, when you look on Google Maps, it's clear that there's a waterway. I mean, that's why it's being dredged and why you're putting a boat lift in there. It's clear that there's a waterway in there. So even though the provisional harbor line isn't drawn in there, I want to know how, there's no information about how far out from the shore the new construction is going to extend. And, it seems to me it should be no more than a quarter of the distance to the far shore, which it may very well be within that, but there's nothing in the application to even indicate that I saw, maybe I missed it, the size of the proposed boat lift, 20,000 pound boat lift.
I had that conversation with MDE. They actually proposed that the pier be longer and go out further because the quarter distance is much longer than the proposed existing 10-foot pier. The problem is the water gets too shallow at that point to get their boat in. So the whole thing is going out no more than 10 feet, plus the boat lift, which is an additional 15 feet. So it's 25 feet out from the bulkhead.
Okay, and do you know how far across the cove it is there, approximately?
I did, but I didn't include this. But again, I spoke with MDE about it. They proposed going out another 25 or 30 feet, but because of the shallow water, it was impossible.
Well, because kayak, I happened to, actually didn't review this proposal until later today, but I was actually kayaking back in there this morning. And I said, oh, there's a boat there. I didn't even know there was a slip there. But so I just want to make sure that the new construction doesn't kind of take over that cove, but it sounds like it's not. Can you go over the dimensions again, though? Just I was looking at something and didn't catch it for sure.
Well, that's a good point. But again, I did speak with MDE, and they have proposed to approve the draft as we've suggested.
So but the boat slip you said is how big? 15 feet?
The pilings are 15 feet apart, and that's because it's a 20,000 pound lift. And I believe that towards the end.
Got any other comments, or does that answer your questions? John, you're muted, so I can't. Does that answer your questions?
That does, yes.
Okay. Any other comment or questions? If not, thank you very much. And we will hold this under consideration in advance to hear public comment and consider it at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if you will bring forward the Ingalls at 218 Norwood Road. I guess Mike Marsh is representing them.
All right.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes, can you hear me?
Please, we can hear you and we can see you. So please summarize the application for us, if you would, please.
Sure. The applications for Mr. James Ingalls at 218 Norwood Road. What he's proposing to do is to install a 10-foot long by 13-foot wide boat lift on existing pilings, and also move a 3-foot wide by 5-foot long jet ski lift that's up close to the shore out to the far corner of the pier to get into deeper water and to keep it out of way of the new boat coming in. He has applied for MDE approval, which was approved on October 24th, 2019. I have a copy here, and he did post his signs, and I believe send a copy of that to Kevin Scott.
I have no questions or comments. So any fellow board member have any questions, comments? If not, we thank you very much for your application. We'll take it into consideration at our next meeting for voting.
All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you. So the next application is 940 Creek Drive. I think Dan Lyrian will be doing that presentation. Oh. And Ismail's, is Dan going to present this or is,
Yeah, he is.
oh, okay. Oh, here he comes. Mr. Lyrian, I understand you're going to present this proposal. So if you would summarize it for us and tell us what the applications of what the Ismails are trying to do.
I'm representing Osmond and Ald Ismail Living Trust at 940 Creek Drive. The proposed work is to remove and replace the existing deck on the existing pier, to install access steps 6 feet wide on the existing pier to access a floating dock, to install a 20-foot long by 6-foot wide floating dock, and to add 2 12-inch diameter guide piles to hold the floating dock. And then we have MDE approval and the Army Corps approval at this time. And MDE instructed us that the prior license that was issued 17-GL-0551, they indicated that there was going to be a 5-foot window in the stone, and they actually put stone in and didn't put a window in. So they instructed us to remove that stone on the north property line, which we will do that when we have our permits issued. We have signs posted. They've been posted for, on the 17th. We notified all the adjacent property owners within 175 feet. And that's pretty much what we plan to do.
And I thought the Corps had a concern about a platform at the end of a pier being more than 200 square feet, which if you add this platform, the floating pier would exceed that. Is that not a concern of theirs anymore? Well, it's not our rule.
No, that a platform, the definition of a platform has to be in the outer third of the pier or in an area that's deeper than 3 feet and cannot exceed 200 square feet. But a residential pier is allowed to be 6 feet wide. So we're actually adding a pier extension 6 by 20, which is a floating dock in lieu of a fixed dock.
Ah, so that's a pier extension.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no further questions. Any questions from any of our fellow board members? If not, we thank you very much for your summary and your application, and we'll take this under consideration at our meeting next month when it will be eligible for voting after we hear public comments.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I guess we skip you, Dan, and go to 18 Spa View Circle, Leo and Patricia Dunn, and Renee Norris, I believe. Mr. or Mrs. Dunn, we see you. Are you going to do the summary or is?
No, Renee Norris is.
Okay, we're waiting for her to show up. Which is not her, it's our technologically, we're trying to get her in here.
So Ms. Norris, you should be able to turn your camera on. At the bottom left of your screen, there you are.
Am I here? My apologies. Yes,
Welcome.
so I am Renee Norris. Welcome. Good evening. I am representing Leo and Trish Dunn. They own the property at 18 Spa View Circle, and they are requesting to remove their existing pier and 7 mooring piles. And actually, if you take a look at the diagrams on pages 7 and 9, the existing and proposed conditions, it'll be easier to identify what they're requesting. So they want to remove their existing pier and the 7 mooring piles, and they want to install a 6-foot by 52-foot pier with a 10-foot by 20-foot L head with a total maximum channel worth length of 62 feet. They also want to install 3 boat lift piles and 1 boat lift, and install a 52-foot timber bulkhead 18 inches channelward of their existing concrete bulkhead. We did hold a pre-app meeting with Heather Hepburn from MDE, and she approved the timber bulkhead. That is what they're requesting.
On the existing conditions, the dimensions are not there for the pier. How long is the current pier?
So the current pier, if you give me 1 second, is...
They're either not there
It's
or
like-
they're too small for me to read.
My apologies. It's 35 feet. No, it's...
16 feet.
Yes. It's about 40 feet.
Okay.
And as you can see, by installing the new pier and changing the angle, we're putting everything into compliance. Moving the current mooring piles are actually in the setback and onto the neighbor's property. By relocating, re-angling the pier, moving everything into compliance there. And within, so that nothing is sitting in the setback.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from any fellow board members? If not, we thank you very much for your presentation, and we will hold this under consideration for our next meeting after we hear public comment, where it will then be eligible to be voted on. So we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will move to the next applicant, which is 9 Shipwright Street. And I believe Mr. Laren is back with us.
Yes, sir.
And would you summarize this this application?
Yes, sir. I'm representing Start LLC, Lauren Compte at 9 Shipwright Street. The proposed work includes to remove the existing pier and replace it in kind, add 3 mooring piles, replace 2 wooden decks, a 3.5-foot by 5.5-foot deck, an 11-foot deck by 5.5 feet, replace the existing bulkhead that is 34 feet in length, 18 inches channelward, and to dredge the existing slip to -9, approximately 60 cubic yards, to be taken to RB Baker and Son, which is in Queenstown, Maryland. All access will be by water. The property is posted. We notified the adjacent property owners, and we're going to raise the elevation of the pier of about 14 inches, and the bulkhead will be raised 14 inches to match the neighboring properties. We have permission from both adjacent property owners to attach the bulkhead to the property line on either side, as well as to be able to park a boat in the ladder line setback. We do have comments from MDE and the Corps that we are working on at this time. They look all favorable, but we have not received approval yet. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, I'm just looking at the area to be dredged, which is significant. But that's just a comment. I have no questions. Any other comments or questions from John?
I have a question. Dan, you're usually very thorough with showing how you generate the lateral lines. These lateral lines look to my eye that they're probably accurate, but you didn't include in this application what you normally do.
Yeah,
Showing
I
how
should have. I actually have a new draftsman, so I need to alert him to that, and I can get that to you. I can email it to Kevin how we did that. But we have that situation where the neighbor's bulkhead breaks 90 degrees. So when you bisect the property line, that's where it puts that obtuse angle, that property line where it converges towards our proposed pier. So I feel confident that we are correct. I did investigate that.
Yeah, it's a tight corner in there. I looked at it on Google or through Google Maps.
Very
corner
tight.
there, but yeah.
He's got a 40-foot Hinckley that he has over the yacht base and that he plans to bring over there. And the reason the dredge area, Gene, is underneath the pier and beyond the pier is, that stuff is so soft. If we don't remove it, it'll run back into the slip the minute we leave the job site.
So is the slip at the end of the dock where the new pilings are going in?
No, it'll be parallel. It'll be in the north side of the pier. So the bow will go up towards the bulkhead. It's just, that's about the only way we can tie it up. We don't have enough room to do any mooring piles out beyond it. So we'll tie side 2 of the pier and the mooring piles.
What are the 3 new piles for then? What were their function be?
We weren't sure exactly what, how that thing's going to fall in there with the, to being able to tie it up. And we want a way that if we have to back it up a little bit, we can back it up and tie to that just to secure it a little better. It's kind of awkward not having outboard mooring piles. So the more lines we can put on there and cross them and sister them, the better the boat's going to sit in the slip.
What's the draft of the boat?
Draft of the boat is 7 feet. It's a 40-foot Hinckley, and I actually included that in the application, the registration.
Okay.
But we've had these severe swing and tides, Gene.
I know it. That's why it's the draft.
We're going to be on the bottom even with 9 feet, but hopefully not.
Yeah. Any other questions? If not, Dan, we appreciate it very much. And we will take this under consideration. And if you do produce the methodology for the lateral lines, we're always interested in having those. If you can send those.
We'll do that. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for having the meeting and taking the time to hear us.
Well, we appreciate your participation. And with that, we will hold that application under consideration until we receive public comment, eligible for voting on at our next meeting. So thank you.
Good. Yes, sir. Should we be present at the next meeting? Or do we need to be present?
It would probably be helpful if only because we don't know what kind of public comments we're getting, and we may, I assume that's going to be virtual too. And so we may need to have some dialogue with the applicants. We just don't know because this is our first time.
Okay.
But and maybe it should be work with Kevin to see if there are any comments that may give rise to concern that we may need a discussion. But we want, what we do want to be sure. Yeah, we just want to be sure the public has an opportunity, to get input in their comments. And then if that causes us to have other questions, it would be helpful to be there because we could always, postpone for another meeting and, that would be time you probably wouldn't want to spend. So.
Okay. So after the virtual comments 30 days from now, is it still a 30-day proof of facts and a 30-day appeal period that starts at that time, or does it start at this time?
It would start at the time we voted, I would assume, Kevin.
Okay.
An appeal period would run after the decision is final.
I got you. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Those
Appreciate
are
your
all
time.
the applications. Is there any other business to come before the port wardens?
Dean,
John?
I have something before you adjourn the meeting, that's all.
Ah,
That I'd like
good.
to, I'd just like to acknowledge the court case that was included in the application from the Hillary, no, I don't have it in front of me.
Rothenberg, yeah.
Right, you know, in it, and Kevin's predecessor kind of acknowledged for doing things incorrectly, not according to city code for a number of years. I think it was like 10 or 15 years because it kind of worked better. And I just, you know, one of the reasons why we sometimes go to this lateral line thing is we're really trying to make sure that applications, that we're not doing that anymore. And I just wanted to, you know, it was like it was interesting to see that in a court case. I hadn't realized that history was there, but, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. And I'm kind of glad they included that in their application because it kind of showed why their situation is the way it is now, even though they were just replacing in kind anyway.
All right. Well, let me just say to you personally, I applaud your interest in being sure we follow the accuracy of the code, and especially with the lateral lines. And you know, that's our duty and why we're reporting. So I appreciate that concentration and effort that you spend. Kevin, let me just say we appreciate all you do in trying to keep us straight. And Hillary, who's not on the screen, we appreciate her talents of producing this show. So with that, if there's nothing else to be heard, the court wardens are hereby adjourned. Thank you all.